positive ones. So rather than do that, let's start positive, because that's better support for your immune system. So joy is past or present pleasure. Feels like you're filled with warmth, nurturance, and are energized and filled with life. Happiness is present emotional fulfillment. Now, one of the reasons I like doing the emotional equation thing is sometimes in order to solve the equation, you have to use its opposite. That's what algebra teaches you. So as an example, if somebody has suffered physical and emotional abuse, they've been taught not to feed themselves. They've been taught not to nurture themselves. They've basically been taught to abandon themselves. So basically, self-abandonment. And sometimes we can talk about cultural self-abandonment. So this person basically, yeah, I didn't eat. I was drinking a fifth of vodka a day, and I wasn't eating. Right. Okay, so now you're a week out of rehab. What are you eating? Oh, oatmeal. Oatmeal and toast. Okay. How much water are you drinking? Oh, I'm drinking water. Okay, leafy greens? Fruits, vegetables? Well, I eat here. Eat a sandwich. Okay, you could buy... Oh, you can't buy salads this week. They're out for some reason. But there's the salad bar. You're going to buy a sandwich. It's the same exercise I did with you in terms of looking at, if you were looking at things that make you go and you were looking at your food, going on a 90% live food diet, what's that like? Don't wrinkle your nose, come on. I didn't mean eating squirrels, I meant eating things that are alive when you eat them, fruits and vegetables. You'd rather eat a squirrel, okay. What can I say? I'm just saying, for somebody that went from eating just alcohol, it's a big leap to eat a salad. And do that on a regular basis. And hydrate themselves. And think about, okay, these people basically were trying to, have a bunch of stories. So, it's not like you're the Cambodian kid who had his entire family murdered and he survived by being on the bottom of a pile of bodies. And a British reporter asked him, do you think about revenge? And he said, I think the people that were doing that were trying to kill my dreams, so I'm going to become a doctor. The best revenge is living well. This particular person likes being a cook. Good. I like the feel of watching people eat good food and the look on their faces. I said, okay, notice, cognitive behavioral therapy, notice that you like making other people feel good, but you're not taking care of yourself. How are you nourishing yourself? I never thought of it that way. Right. You were taught not to. That's what those people, your parents, taught you. You'll never amount to anything, blah, 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 blah. What? No, that's not what if a parent is doing that, the parent themselves has been abused. You will not necessarily see that. I have that perspective. So, part of the creating a cultural model for health means you might have to leave the culture you were raised in. You might have to abandon that for a healthier cultural model. So in happiness, it's the experience of meeting your needs. It feels like you're lovable, capable, proud of yourself, and recognized by those who are important to you. Someone else asked about, I'm going to go into controversial territory here. Did a workshop a couple of weeks ago entitled African-Centered Reality Therapy. I said it's not just for black people. It's a way of looking at the world. You have to look at the way from a culture's point of view, from their point of view, not yours. You have to understand what their point of view is. You don't have to agree with it. You just have to understand that that's what they see. And so the feedback that I gotten is that I'd insulted somebody's religion in the workshop. And I said, so I read, and they explained what the insult was. And I go, oh, wait a minute, wait. I identified what my point of view was. My point of view is, I'm a liberation theologist. Christianity's an African religion. And Africans don't believe the world was created 5,000 years ago. African Christians that are practicing, an African Jesus, because that was the model up until Michelangelo painted his uncle on the system. I'm not making that up. The model for white Jesus is Michelangelo's uncle as the model. Everywhere else, like in Africa, is a black guy. Like in Ethiopia, which has the oldest churches in the world, 2nd century. He's a brown guy. Hair like lamb's wool. Feet the color of bronze. Yeah, right. Okay. So Africans don't believe the world started 5,000 years ago. The pyramids are older than that. So I said, it's kind of ridiculous to think that. So yeah, I'm putting down your religion if you believe that. Well, I wasn't raised to believe that. Africans understand, a day to God. Here's the analogy. There's an old song from out of the Norse tradition that there's a mountain in the land of Odin, their particular top god, that's 10,000 miles in the air. Once every 1,000,000 years, a bird comes to sharpen its beak at the top of the peak. When the peak is worn down, that's one day. Long time. Not 168 hours. Long time. We have no comprehension. Well, that's all I'm saying. We have no idea. So when he says, well, somebody else said today is, where's heaven? I said, well, if you read Aramaic, he says, the kingdom of heaven is within you and among your people. Who's your people? The people that feed you and nurture you, not necessarily your birth parents, especially if they abused you. Who are your people? The people that take care of you. They might not be your family. It might not be. So you might actually have to abandon some aspects of your culture if it's not nurturing. You might have to do that. Yeshua says that, in fact. You might have to turn away from those folks. You might. Right? So part of meeting the happiness, meeting your needs, feels like you're lovable, capable, proud of yourself, and recognized by those that are important to you. Hopefully, that's your parents and your biological family that do that for you. They're supposed to. That's the way it's supposed to be. We can all agree on that, right? No matter what your religion is. If that's not happening, something is wrong. Now, something that might be wrong might have happened to them a long time ago, and we'll actually be looking at that later on today before we do final prep. So it's important to start from the point of view of strength, happiness. Now, part of African-centered reality therapy. We start with the strength first. Then we immediately go to what the barriers are. And first barrier that we come to, especially from joy and happiness, is fear. So, fear is awareness of present danger or the expectation of future danger. In fact, the expectation of future danger is actually anxiety. So when people say they have an anxiety attack, it's not that they're in danger now, but something bad is about to happen, and it's an overwhelming feeling they feel in their bodies. Now, usually what Western medicine will do, because they're not into the pills or not skills thing, they'll give you a pill, usually a benzo, often an SSRI, and if you understand how those drugs work, essentially what they're doing is, well, with a benzo, they're like getting you drunk except chemically, except that you're not drunk. They're just depressing the neurotransmitters of fear. Or the SSRI, basically increasing the sensor that censors data so you can block out that stuff. Okay, there's theoretically, should be some skill building along with the pills to say, okay, what are you afraid of? What are you experiencing? Where are you feeling this fear? What is it? People will say, I tried that breathing thing, it was just overwhelming. It's easier to take the pill. Okay, but what are you afraid of? Or are you remembering some past thing? But again, that has to be something that they're asked about in therapy by a therapist that's willing to go there. Right? So, anxieties, future hurt. So it's the same as fear, except that it's future focused. So it's the expectation of hurt or loss. It feels like something bad is going to happen. Now, just because you're paranoid does not mean they're not after you. So you got to assess how much they are after you. For real. And take appropriate steps. Hurt, present pain. The experience of loss or injury feels like sadness or depletion. Anger, past or present pain expressed. Now, if you remember that emotional equation, the problem with that the emotional equation is highlighting is that depression comes from not expressing the anger. So even if it was something like writing it down in a secret diary or something, creating an art project that's code, making a collage, because it might not be safe to express anger to the person that hurt you. Might not be. So anger, past or present pain expressed. The reason it's next to hurt is often hurt comes first, and then your first reaction is anger at being hurt. So the outward expression of hurt, recent or remote, feels like wanting to hurt someone. Now, often because of the way the power dynamic is expressed, and what I mean by that, if the person that hurts you you perceive them as actually having more power than you, physical domination or just emotional coercion, it might not be safe to want to hurt that person. So then what happens is you get the message from them, it's okay to hurt yourself and participate in them hurting you. So you'll take that out on them, on yourself. I've actually seen people who have, who are abuse survivors who are, their words, I was trying not to pass judgment, but since they went there, I had to go there with them. They became addicted to tats and piercings. Oh, I got a new tattoo. Wait, isn't that like, doesn't that hurt? Yeah, it did. You needed another one? I mean, you got, that's a great sleeve, but another tattoo? And it was because they were self-inflicting pain. Because they used to be a cutter, too. She used to be a cutter. I can't comment on the guys, but, yeah. You gotta wonder sometimes. In cultures of tradition where they do tattooing, it's a rite of passage. It's not just personal adornment. It actually means something, some achievement, something they've accomplished. Same thing with a piercing. But, you know, we're a 2-year-old culture, so we want what we want. We want what everyone else has, and where did this fad come from anyway? Exactly. But, okay. Hey. Guilt. Past pain unexpressed. It's anger held in and turned against yourself. It feels like you are bad and deserve punishment. Now, often what happens with this, I've actually observed this, well, many times, but I've actually observed this usually around death. Particularly if the death is unresolved or sudden or unexpected, and, you know, there's that whole thing about survivor's guilt. What did I say to them before they died? I wish I could take those words back. If only, if only. And you feel guilty about feeling angry at that person. Or you might feel guilty about what you did to them, or what they did to you. Unresolved stuff. So, guilt. Anger held in and turned against yourself. It feels like you are bad and deserve punishment. So part of guilt, in addition to being anger, is shame and hurt. Depression. Past pain chronically unexpressed. A pattern of reacting to all hurt by holding in anger. It feels like your energy is depleted and you feel lifeless. So that explanation of, for example, when I said that anger is like an explosive emotion, if it isn't allowed to explode or express itself and you keep it tamped in, it takes energy to do that. Just like the starship, oh, well, you're probably not trekkers, so saying an antimatter containment field, not going to mean much to you, but think of a black hole. So there's a news item about a supermassive black hole, one about the mass of 1 billion suns in the center of this galaxy, and shooting out jets of matter in a focused way. The reason I bring that up is you can focus your anger without stuffing it. It doesn't have to explode. You can actually focus the energy in a particular way to achieve a certain end. But otherwise, if you're stuffing it, you're taking energy away from living or being happy by the reason you feel lifeless is because most of your energy is going to stuffing the anger. So there comes the issue of then self-care and self-transformation. So before you can take care of yourself, you have to identify who you are. So, is anything missing? So, the piece we were talking about the other day about what the literature refers to as the addictive search. You're looking for something, something's missing, you're not sure what it is, so you're doing what everybody else does in an attempt to find it without necessarily knowing that something's missing. So, when you ask who you are there missing answers? So, as an example, if this is Introduction to Addictive Behaviors, come on now, been asked many times. What is the safest drug to do? Aspirin's pretty good.